Hey, Book 2, welcome to Jackie's Literary Corner. And I thought I would do a reading update since I'm off today. I'm only off today, and then I work the next 3 days. And then I'm actually off on Wednesday, and I think whatever day is the 26th will be mine after Wednesday. Whatever day is the 26th will be my next day off, I believe. Because, unfortunately, and I get it, these are the busiest months for Harris Teeter, November through December. Although it kind of starts in the middle of October because, Halloween and everything, so people come buy candy and pies and pumpkin flavored stuff. But yeah, this must be how people that work at a hospital feel, because they understand why they want them to come in, and they get it because stuff happens. People, get hurt, or there's emergencies and stuff like that when people, especially like when people are visiting. So wherever, if you work, whether it's a grocery store or a hospital or other retail, November and December are the busiest months for people like us, because then they're probably going to expect you to work a lot. But, so I finally got another day off. Unfortunately, like I said, I work after today, I work on Monday through Tuesday. But, like I said, I get it, They're not going to give me 4 days off until, probably until maybe the beginning of December. I might get a few more days off before. Although I did tell, when I asked for that vacation around Christmas time, because, I want to spend Christmas with my grandma, I did tell her that I could work every day up until those days, and she was like, okay. So I'm probably going to be working quite a bit in December until possibly the 22nd, because she said the 22nd. So maybe that means she won't have me work on the 22nd. Although I don't know, she might. There's probably actually more of a chance that she will have me work on the 22nd. But anyway, so I'm not going to have as much time to do reading, which is really sad, because I have like 8 books here from the library that I need to read. But anyway, unfortunately, I'm totally failing at Tome Topple. I am participating in Tome Topple, but it's more like half-heartedly, because I'm trying to also read my library books. But, I haven't read any more of Harry Potter, so I'm still kind of at the part when Lupin shows up and offers to help them, but really he's just trying to run away from his own personal problems. Right? He got Tonks pregnant. Although the good news is it's not out of wedlock; they're married. He's dealing with the fact that he's passed on the werewolf gene to his son, and that's really hard for him. On the one hand, I get it, he's absolutely terrified, but on the other hand, I'm more kind of leaning towards what Harry thinks, which is that it's cowardly for him to run away from this, because he has a kid who has this burden of being a werewolf, and running away from it is not going to help the kid. It's just going to make it worse, because then the kid's going to be angry at you and resent you if you decide to come back and be like, why did you abandon me when you were the one who has experience with these? You could have helped me get through this and helped me understand it and helped me not feel so alone. And I think that's what makes Terry angry, because he was abandoned he wasn't abandoned. His parents unfortunately got killed. But he understands feeling alone and wishing your parents were there, who have more experience to help you, to guide you. And I think, like I said, that's probably why he's so angry at Lupin for feeling like, because his parents couldn't help that they got killed, or they got murdered. Lupin can't help it. He doesn't have to. He's choosing to run away. So, but anyway, I haven't read any of that since. I did think about reading My Lady Jane, because by Cynthia Hand, Brody Ashton, and Jodi Mendez, but I still haven't gotten around to it. But it would meet the criteria. It's a little over 500 pages, so it would meet the criteria for over 500 pages. It's YA. It's a retelling of the Lady Jane Grey story, and from what I heard, it gives her a happier ending. It has like more of a fantastical comedic element to her story. Like that's what all these books about famous Janes. That's what these authors are doing. They're all kind of doing a retelling of the story, but making it a little more, giving it a more interesting spin, a more pleasanter spin. If these Janes, something happened to them, if they didn't survive. And the next one, the second one they published was My Plain Jane, and that's why I decided to read this set. Because even though I technically don't have to, because it's more like a companion series, it doesn't even have like, it's not even that type of companion series where it has characters from this book and they're the main characters in the next book. It's not even like that kind of companion series, because the next one was about Jane Eyre, and this one is about Lady Jane Grey, and she's a historical figure. She was one of, she's the 9-Day Queen, I believe that's what they said. And then, of course, Jane Eyre is a fictional character. And then I think they're going to do, and then the next one that's coming out soon is My Calamity Jane, which is about the famous female Western Jane character. So that one's, I believe, I think she was a historical figure, like she was a real person. So maybe what they're going to do is go back and forth between telling story, like going historical fiction. Maybe that's what they're going to do. I wonder if they're going to do one about Jane Austen. That'd be interesting. Maybe actually give her an actual romance that lasts. But maybe maybe give her a story where she actually does get married. That would be kind of fun, because like I said, I think these stories are kind of giving a more happier spin on the historical figure. When they do the ones about historical figures, I think they're giving them more of a happier ending if they die horribly or something. But I figured this fits the criteria, and it's a way so I could get it done faster. But then I have like 8 library books that I want to read. I've taken a break from Rebecca. Like the last thing I read was our narrator and Maxim go. The sister has visited, and she kind of annoys her brother a little bit. Talks about how he wasn't doing very well, and with the whole his wife, dying, and she wanted him to be happy again, and she tells our narrator about this and how she's been good for her brother, but the brother just gives her like the stink eyes, and he is not really happy. Her presence is hers and her husband's presence is very exhausting for him. And so they decide to take a walk, and with the dog, and they end up going. The dog ends up taking off and going in the direction of a beach area that Maxim doesn't want to go to. I'm guessing that has to do with Rebecca and maybe how she died. And our narrator follows the dog, being like, "The dog's not coming. I need to go get him." And she runs into this guy on the beach, Joe, who seems to be a little ignorant, not very low IQ. And she tries to talk to him, and then while she's trying to get the dog, she comes across this little cabin in the woods that looks like it had furniture in it and all this stuff in it, and she questions Maxim about it. And I think she suspects that I think it's Rebecca's little secret hideaway. And then the last thing was that she talked to what was he? Let me see if I can find. She talked to Frank. What is Frank's last name? Frank. Okay, see, I'm constantly seeing his first name, but what is his last name? Frank, and what was he? I can't remember what he was. He was like a lawyer or something. Frank. I can't think of his last name. I can't find his last name, but. Frank Crawley, that's what it was. I'm surprised I didn't remember that last name because Downton Abbey, Frank Crawley, who I think he's like I can't remember, he's like a lawyer or something for Maxim. And she asked him about Rebecca, and he says, yeah, Rebecca was really beautiful and all that. And our narrator started to suspect that he might have been in love with Rebecca. Because he's like everybody else, he's acting weird about the whole idea of Rebecca. And she's asking him all these questions and stuff, and that's the last thing I really read. I was in the middle of the next chapter, but then I felt the urge to get up and go do something. I think I wanted to go ahead and go, I needed to go to the bathroom or get something to eat for dessert or something after dinner. But, yeah, that's the last thing I read. So I do want to read a little bit more of it to finish the 2 chapters out. Because I hate stopping in the middle of a chapter, but these are really, I think that was part of the problem, is also the chapters in this book are really long, and I don't like really long chapters. I end up getting restless at some points. Even if I'm engaged in the story, because I am engaged in the story, I'm definitely curious what's the deal with Rebecca and everything, and was she murdered, and maybe Danvers and Max had something to do with it. Was Frank Crawley in love with Rebecca? Maybe Maxim isn't as saintly as he seems. I don't know. I'm definitely curious. I have not read Blood of Valens, but I've been meaning to. So let's talk about the books I actually have read. First, I've been reading The History of Magic by Alice Hoffman, and this is a prequel to Practical Magic, the story about the 2 sisters, the 2 Owens, Sally and Gillian Owens. There was a movie made starring Nicole Kidman and Sandra Bullock and Stockard Channing and Diane Wiest. And then Aidan Quinn was in it, and one of the guys from ER was in it. So this one is about the aunts when they were young women. Jet and Franny were friends with Bridget, and they apparently had a brother. I don't remember if there was a brother mentioned in the book. I'll have to, I think it's I've seen it at the library, so I think what I'll do is next time I go to the library, I might grab it. I might go ahead and check it out and read it, refresh my memory. As I'm reading this, I don't know if it's because it's about teenagers, or maybe the original book was written like this, but it feels very, almost a little YA in its writing style. And in fact, it almost feels like it's more tell than show, if anything. Like I said, I don't remember how Practical Magic was, so maybe that's how Practical Magic was written too. I mean, I just remember really loving Practical Magic, but I also love stories about witches anyway, so. But yeah, the writing style seems, or maybe I'm wrong, maybe it's just my imagination, or maybe I'm totally clueless or whatever, but it just, I'm liking it, and I'm going to keep going. I want to finish it. I don't want this to be another DNF, because I already have 13 DNFs, so even though, yes, I know it's not about quantity, it's about quality of what you're reading, and it shouldn't matter how many books you're reading. That's why next year, in 2020, I'm going to make my goal only 6 books, but, I know I'm going to read more than 6, that's for sure. But it's just, I feel like, I almost feel guilty. I feel like I'm not actually reading. I didn't actually read 100 books. Because I DNF'd quite a few. And I know there's nothing wrong with DNFing. I mean, it's good to DNF, because if you're not enjoying the book, why keep going? Why put yourself through that? You don't pressure yourself to read a book, especially if you're not enjoying it. And if there's a lot of other books, whether they're library books or your own personal collection, that you would rather read, than go for those. because there's no point in wasting your time on a book you're not enjoying. Like, I definitely feel that way. But at the same time, for me, it's about accomplishment and saying I can read 100 books, especially when you constantly hear from people, oh, you read so much. How can you read so much? Knowing that there are more people who read over 100 books on BookTube. There are people that read 150 books. There are people that read 200 books on BookTube. So it's like, I know it's not a competition, but it's like, you think I read a lot? Yeah, I do compared to you, but on BookTube, there are a lot of people that read more than me. No matter, and even though I know that's not a competition, it's not about quantity, I still feel like I want to prove I can do this. That, yes, I can read a lot of books, like at least 100 books. And no, I'm not rushing, I'm not reading a bunch of stories that are like, comic books are, short stories all the time. I still read full-length novels. And the other reason for next year's goal is because I end up neglecting 500 plus books because it's like, that's going to take me a lot longer to read. So so next year I'm definitely going to make my goal smaller. But I want to try to get a little past 100. Like, at least 100 it says I'm read on Goodreads. So I'm going to try not to DNF any more books in the next 2 months. But, so I'm going to keep going. Like I said, at the moment, I don't want to DNF it. It's just, at the same time, I'm thinking it's not as awesome as I thought it was going to be. It's interesting. I'm glad we're learning. Like, I would rather get a prequel of interesting characters that were introduced than make for an author to write another sequel. Like, I was very disappointed when I found out when one of my favorite shows from back in the 90s is Charmed, not the new Charmed. I'm talking about the one back in the 90s with Holly Marie Combs, Alyssa Milano, Rose McGowan in season 4 through 8, and Shannon Doherty in the first 3 seasons. What I wanted was either if you're gonna do a sequel, do it about the kid, do it about the next generation, or if you're gonna I would prefer them to have done a prequel about maybe Patty, their mom, and their grandmother, Penny, their grandmother Penny. But they didn't. They ended up just basically taking the Charmed name and redoing the story with a new group of girls. And he's like, really? You couldn't do a prequel or an actual legitimate sequel, like maybe about the next generation? I was trying to think of reasons why they did that. Like maybe they couldn't get the same actors that they wanted, or maybe the others didn't want to do it, or maybe they couldn't come up with a good story. Because we do get a lot of background on both on the generation before Piper, Phoebe, Prue, and Paige. And then we get some background on the kids, we get a little hint of Wyatt and Chris's story. Of course, now that they have cousins, there's more kids, they could have done a lot more. Or maybe do where, Chris knows that his brother could potentially become evil, and he's nervous history is going to repeat itself and his brother's still going to become evil, and maybe Wyatt is struggling with that because eventually he finds out from his brother that Chris, and that could be a conflict. And then you also have the other girls and some characters that died in the original series or disappeared from the original series. You could bring them back, like Cole. You could bring him back. Prue, the kids can finally meet Prue. There could be a Prue and Paige interaction, and Paige and Phoebe and Prue could come back into the series, make guest appearances. Kind of be like James Reed and Finola Hughes. But anyway, that's not what they did, unfortunately. And I'm sure this new series is great. It's still going on. I thought, because I saw people ask, has the new Charmed been canceled? They have on Google most Googled questions when you start typing. There was one that was the Charmed new series canceled, and I was wondering that for a little bit, but then I saw that no, it's not canceled. They're having new episodes, and I'm sure it's a great show. And maybe it's not great. I don't know. I've only watched one episode. It's definitely, from the one episode I watched, it definitely had a very more quirkier vibe than the original. But anyway, let's back to the books. So, this is very interesting. So, what I've read so far is you're introduced to the sisters. Their mom, because of the whole curse, their mom did not marry their father because she was in love with him. She married him because he was a good partner and she did care about him. Which, let me explain. So in the original Practical Magic, there was a curse on the family that their ancestor Maria Owens, she was around during like the Salem witch trials and everything, and basically she got banished from that part from the main island that she lived, and the guy who impregnated her never came to claim being the father of her baby because she got pregnant. So she cast a spell upon herself that she would never again feel the agony of love. But then what ended up happening is what resulted is a curse in the family where every time a man loves one of the Owens women, he dies a horrible death, essentially. So they find out from their aunt Isabel what's going to happen. And they learn that their mom, that's why she didn't marry a man that she was in love with. Because she was worried about the curse and she was trying to protect the man she loved. So it's definitely one of the situation with their mom is one of those situations where they don't really know their mom that well and they don't understand her. And she has become too cautious and too strict and too hard on her girls because she's trying to protect them and protect herself. And so it puts a strain on the relationship between the girls and their mom. And then they have a brother, Vincent, who is a bit of a rebel. And that's the only thing that bugs me, is that Vincent is the baby brother. And he's a teenager, and I don't know if they're going like for maybe he's a succubus or just a powerful warlock or wizard or whatever, but he's able to enchant women to fall in love with him. And he's only his first encounter with an older woman, that in his first experience with sex, he's 14 years old. And then their cousin April shows up into their lives when they're staying with their aunt for the summer, because that's a tradition in their family. When the Owens witches turn 17, they end up staying with their aunt Isabel. And like April shows up, who had stayed, so she's like 17, 18 years old now, and she falls under the spell of Vincent. And it's like, the kid you're 17, or maybe even 18, and this kid is like 14, and it's very weird to me. I know it's magic and everything, it's fantasy. I mean, you could almost argue this is more magical realism than fantasy, because they're in the real world, they just have magic. But I guess if you would have to call like a show like Charmed magical realism then. But so that's just weird to me. Even though I know that he's like this powerful warlock in the family, so he's an enchanter or something. I don't know. They haven't spelled it out, but that's what I'm getting, that he's an enchanter or something. He can seduce people. And it's just weird him being so young, being only 14. He seems a lot older. But then he finds out some stuff about himself that's like, he's been forced to see the reality of things, and I think that really matures people, and they come to realize that being more mature and stuff. But although he's like at this age, he's drinking alcohol underage, and I don't think that's very mature. But anyway, so yeah, it's just weird. That's the only thing that's weird to me. that bothers me in the story is how young he is, and he's hooking up with these older women. And then you have the two main girls, Jet and Franny, and they both have found love, but because of the curse, like Franny's afraid to love her boyfriend because of the curse, knowing that he's gonna die, and Jet's more of a romantic, and is pursuing this relationship with this guy, Levi, who is actually the son of a reverend and who knows that they're witches, and he's actually a cousin in the family, like he's a distant cousin. And Jet is told time and again to stay away from this kid because I guess he's an enemy essentially. So it's a very Romeo and Juliet-esque story situation, or at least that part of the plot. It's kind of weird because I keep thinking of Stockard Channing and Diane Wiest as the characters, even though these girls, they're not old ladies, they're young women. Like, I keep thinking of, like, a younger version of them as the characters. Although, I mean, Stockard Channing is a good actress and everything, but, and I don't know if there's any Stockard Channing fans out there, but I never thought that she wasn't that pretty. I mean, I don't think she's ugly, but I don't think she's that pretty either. But, so I would probably want to cast it, like, in my imagination, cast someone different to play a younger version, which, in reality, if this was ever made a movie, they couldn't, Stockard Channing is an older woman now, so they would have to cast someone that, looks similar, but is obviously younger. But I wonder if they this would be interesting. I mean, they recently, I think they did that, Dr. Sleep. That's a sequel to The Shining. And they made The Shining back in the 90s, and now it's 2019 going on 2020, and they're making Dr. Sleep, which is a sequel to it. So, I mean, they could do this, and this is not even a sequel, it's a prequel, so they could do this, make this a new movie if they wanted to. But I don't know if Alice Hoffman would, would be cool with that, because, I mean, I don't even know how she felt about the original Practical Magic movie. I mean, I thought it was pretty good compared to the, it may have not followed the book 100%, but I think it was still pretty close, so I think it was a good interpretation. But, again, it's been a long time since I read the book, and I think I'm going to get the book from the library. So, enough of that long-winded. Okay, so I'm currently, one of the tomes I am dabbling in is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And this is, like, basically the idea of if there was magic and sorcerers and magicians, real magicians, not illusionists, but guys who can really do magic, in the Napoleonic era, the Napoleonic Wars. And you have Mr. Norrell, who is an older, traditional, conservative magician, and then you have Jonathan Strange, who's the young guy. He's I think what I'm guessing he's going to be arrogant and cocky and confident, wants to do things a little differently. And from what I haven't got very far. I just got to the part where we've been introduced to Jonathan Strange. So, but I'm guessing they're going to butt heads a lot. And from the back description, they're going to eventually become enemies because they see things differently. And as I'm reading this, I keep thinking it's very Dickens-esque with the writing style. It makes me think of Dickens. So I'm wondering if Susanna Clarke was inspired by Dickens with her writing. Well, like I said, we just got introduced to this Jonathan Strange and his family. His dad's a bit of a douchebag, and he's been kind of spoiled. He's been spoiled by his mom. And there was a part about a new manservant that was hired. And he's a bit of, like, the manservant has a bit of his own temper and is not afraid to speak out. And it was a little bit disrespectful to his new boss. So his boss decided to get him back by sending him on a goose chase type mission to deliver something, and that totally backfired and got him sick. Got the manservant a little sick, and was this also thing where the old man missed the elder Mr. Strange asked him to get him some sherry, and he ends up having to take it from a young Jonathan Strange. And he actually gets caught by Jonathan Strange. He is seen by him. So I wonder if anything is going to come out of that. He's going to get in trouble. Maybe Jonathan Strange is going to punish him. I don't know. Yeah, I almost wish I had the TV show Tiny Edition so I could see the actors that are playing the characters, because I know there was a TV show, which according to Terry, actually, she said the show ended up getting canceled. I almost feel like, if a show's gonna get canceled, it's the fantasy shows, because apparently people prefer the repetitious, continuous stories of doctor shows and cop shows and crime dramas, and which I guess that's cop shows and office shows, and I'm trying to think of what's the other type of show we see constantly. I said doctor shows, cop shows, lawyer shows. It's the other one, which is incredibly annoying because it's so boring. You see it's basically the same plots all over again, and there might be some different little storylines here, and there might be some different storylines, but to me it's all basically all the same. And if you that's awesome. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, and I don't want to debate with you or anything if you like those kinds of shows. But I personally don't. So, although sometimes, I get caught watching because I feel like they can be addicting at the same time, even though, at the same time it's okay, this is something I've seen a million times before. Because my mom likes that kind of stuff. But anyway. So, the last chapter I started reading, we are just being reintroduced to a character that I think she was already introduced. She was someone that Mr. Aurel helped earlier in the book. The thing is, I don't remember. I feel bad. This is the problem with books like this, where I end up taking breaks really long breaks in between readings of each section of the book that I read, and then I end up forgetting things. But then at the same time, I don't want to start over, because even though I only got a little chunk in, I still don't want to go all the way back to where I last and just start over. So I'm just going to keep going. So here's the other library book I started. I decided to go ahead with this one because I've had this one for a long time, and this is also a collection of short stories, so I can get through these a little bit faster. But this is Charles Dickens, a collection of Charles Dickens' short stories. I've only read a couple, meaning two stories so far. The Boarding House and Mr. Horatio Sparkins. The Boarding House, not much happens. I mean, stuff happens, but not a lot. Basically, it's about this couple that has been married, in my opinion, for too long. And it's about the going-ons in their boarding house. As I said on Goodreads, there's a wedding going on that they're planning. We don't actually see the wedding. But it's implied, in fact, Mr. Tibbs, the husband, the guy who owns the boarding house, the husband, he is asked to give away the bride, one of the brides, because apparently it's two brides. And then in the next chapter, it's written in 2 chapters. The next chapter involves this elderly woman showing up, who is a hypochondriac, showing up to the boarding house with her maid, Agnes, and all the men are interested in Agnes, including Mr. Tibbs. So, like I said, not a lot really happens. Just these interaction with these characters. There's some characters that don't get along because they have different philosophies of life and stuff like that. So it's kind of amusing, and some of the characters are kind of entertaining. And then the next story that I liked a little bit more is Horatio Sparkins, which is basically about this new guy comes to town, Horatio Sparkins, in the family, and a lot of people are intrigued by who he is, what's his story, and our main characters are the Malderton family, and the mother is trying to fix up her daughters with this guy, Horatio Sparkins, because they believe he's wealthy, well-to-do, and her daughters are still unmarried. And of course, this was the time when it was a big deal to fix up your daughter with a man and to become a husband. And they invite Horatio Sparkins to dinner, but Mr. Malderton is a little concerned because his brother-in-law, his wife's brother, shows up as well, and he's a grocer. So it's the whole idea of, comparing the working class to the upper class, and how Mr. Malderton is a little ashamed of his brother-in-law, and he's very proud of his profession. He's constantly talking about being a grocer, and Mr. Malderton is kind of worried that he's going to embarrass the family in front of Horatio Sparkins. But they see that, and this whole family is obsessed with this guy and who he is, like I said. Again, it's short, but it's a little longer than the other one, I think. But I definitely liked that one a little bit more. I liked how they were obsessing over finding out who this guy is. I like how it looked at how they looked down on the working class and didn't think of and to the point where Mr. Malderton is ashamed of his brother-in-law because he works in a grocery store. He's a grocer, so it's and even though, I complain about the fact that my job isn't ideal, working in a grocery store, not a lot happens, you occasionally might get some interesting customers, but at the same time, it's at least it's a job, and it's a good job, and I like and so it's it's just very interesting that this guy, the brother-in-law, he works at a grocery store, and and I agree, he should be proud, because he works the business, but in England at the time, I don't know if it's still like this today, well, I guess not, because they don't really have or they have wealthier people, but not as prominent. I mean, granted, I've never been to England, and I don't know, but I imagine it's not as prominent the way it was back then. But I feel bad for the brother-in-law, because he's just proud of what he does. That he's a man of his own making. He has his own business. And he worked hard for that business. And basically, he's made to feel like he should be ashamed and that he just needs to shut up and sit down. So, that's something that definitely, not exactly, but, I work at a grocery store myself, and no, I'm not like the boss or the store director or anything, but still, I'm proud that I can say I have a job, and even if it's working in a grocery store, I think that's something that people should be proud of. And then, again, it's also interesting, it looks at the whole idea of how it's a big deal that if you're well-to-do, if you're a wealthy and decent-looking person, then it's oh, I'm gonna have my single unmarried daughters pursue you and see if maybe you could be a potential husband for them. They're obsessed, and it's all about wanting to know about this guy and what's his deal. Which is funny. It's nowadays. It's at least in America. It's about celebrities. We want to know every juicy detail about celebrities, who they're dating, what their personal, and whenever they do something naughty, it's all over the TV, we want to hear about. We're addicted to finding out more information, and they're constantly being exposed. But in this society, you just had to be wealthy and well-to-do, and you were, in a way, treated like a celebrity. But yeah, so I'll read a few more stories of this. There's quite a lot, but they're short stories. They're not novellas or anything. So there's, I think I have 15 more to go. I think. And I really like this one because it has illustrations in it, which I think is really cool. I mean, I would buy this just for this. But then I also am not one of those people who will buy things for the aesthetic aspect. You know, because I'm not that financially secure. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Oh, no, I have 14 more stories to go. Yeah, I guess I miscounted. So I have 14 more to go. Because there's 16 stories, and that was Horatius Sparks with number 15. So I guess I'm on 14. I got 14 more stories to go. And like I said, they're short, so it's basically like Stephen King's, like his collections. So I need to work on that one. I am still participating. Let me talk about the other tome because it's easier to grab. I'm also reading, finally progressing a little bit more in the Goldfinch. And our main character, Theo, after he survived the bombing of the museum, he tells the police and the social workers and all of them that out of desperation to avoid the foster system, he tells them about people he can live with are a friend he knew. I don't know if he knew him in high school or middle school, but this young man who he knew growing up. It might be even elementary school because I think he's only. I feel like I don't remember how old he is, but he tells them to avoid going into the foster system. He tells them about them. And the whole time, these people are trying to do their job by asking him questions, trying to figure out what happened, trying to get him to remember what happened. And they ask him, well, what about your dad? Because Theo's dad is still alive, but he abandoned them. And then about the grandparents and everything, but the grandparents are making excuses like, oh, I just had surgery, so I can't take in a kid right now. And the people don't understand that. They don't understand why they wouldn't want to take their grandson and stay with them. But they don't know this family. They don't know the history of this family. They're just trying to do their job and trying to give him a guardian to stay with. So he ends up living with his friend and his parents, who are very wealthy, and that's how he gets in with the wealthy people that are mentioned in the book description. I'm assuming they're going to be the only, unless he goes to another family that's part of the same circle. But yeah, and he's also kind of talking about the painting that he ended up taking with him, and he was going to try to give it back to the police so they could take it back to the museum, but then it's one of these things where every time he thought about it, then something else would come up. They would ask him questions and stuff, so he, kept missing his chance, so to speak. So, the good news, I'm almost to chapter 4, so I definitely want to read some of this today and get that done, as well. So, in the last book I want to talk about is I am definitely participating in Nonfiction November. Although, you know what I could have used for nonfiction, the book I should have used for Nonfiction November is, where is it? It might be over there. But the, Walt Disney biography by Neil Gabler, that definitely would have worked because for Tome Topple as well as Nonfiction November, because it's over 500 plus pages, but it's taking me so long to read it, and as much as I want to know about Walt Disney and I want to read it, I'm just trying to get a shorter book read. And that is this one. Because I'm already pretty far into it, so it's like I don't want to stop. And that's the whole history, Broadway, the history of New York City in 13 miles. And I'm almost to I'm on mile 6, I think. Yeah, mile 6. And I'm like, not exactly flying through it per se, but I feel like I'm going through it at a pretty good pace. But I think I won't get this done until the end of the month, or maybe not until the beginning of December. But I'm going to try to get it done by the end of the month. Again, I'm in the middle of so many books. I'm trying to read tomes, and then there's books I've started that I want to finish. And then there's all my library books. I want to get at least one book done that I can get back to the library before the due date, before the 26th, which is when these books are due back, or at least I'm going to recheck them out. The problem is I might have to either wait until the 26th and actually return them on the date, because it's one of the days I have off, because I don't know if I will be ready by Wednesday to have a book to turn into the library. I mean, as long as I go on the date they're due back, then I'm good. I mean, it's like the date they're due back. I mean, I am going in, some of the days I'm going in are like late afternoon days, so I can during the day or in the morning go to the library. So I was trying to avoid that. But I mean, I'm working like every day up until Wednesday and then up until the 26th. That's like, if I need to do that, then I need to do that. Either that or just wait until the 26th. But either way, I'm going to try to at least get this one I'm currently reading done. So therein lies the problem. I want to be able to have one book to turn into a library. It's like, I keep thinking, like, okay, I'm going to stop using the library again and take a break from the library, but then there are so many books that I want to read, and then as soon as I get in the library, it's like, ooh, I need to get this one, or, oh, it wouldn't hurt just to look around a little bit, because, I mean, the books are free, and I know there's nothing wrong with using the library, it's just the problem is I end up neglecting all these books, which I know I've said that a million times, but you guys are probably tired of hearing that, but that's my only issue with the library, is that, because I keep all of a sudden going there and it's like, ooh, I can get this book and this book, and when it's free and everything. But anyway, yeah, so I'm on mile 6. Mile 5, we kind of talked about all the theaters on Broadway and how people were saying, begging the question of, is this going to be now the theater place, or the city that's all about the theater? And we talked about some of the all the famous producers and playwriters, and like we've talked about this one guy, Charles Cohn, I think, is it Conan, or what is his name? I hate it when like you keep seeing the last name. Oh, here it is, George M. Cohan, and he was known for making really fast plays that were in musicals, Broadway musicals that were all about like speed. Like he was obsessed with the idea of speed and getting the play done fast and the characters talking fast. And how even though people don't remember his plays, they remember the songs. Like if you're part of the Broadway community, you probably have heard the song, "Give my regards to Broadway, remember me to Herald Square. Tell all the gang at 42nd Street that say that I will soon be there. Whisper of how I'm yearning to mingle with the old Times Square." Blah blah. I'm not gonna sing the rest of it because I'm so off key. Like people know, if you're a Broadway person, you probably have heard of that song, and that was one of his songs. And they talk about all the other like Belasco. He's another famous guy who created Broadway shows. I can't remember what his big thing was, but yeah, but this is so interesting, especially someone who loves the city of Newark, just like the people that the public in this time. And for a while, I wanted to live in New York, but then I realized I can't handle this fast-paced, gritty lifestyle that is New Yorkers. I'm not that kind of person. Yes, I need to live probably in a city, but not that fast-paced of a city, not that big of a city. I need to live in a smaller city. Like, I think Virginia, despite the fact that it's probably really expensive, I think it's better as far as pace for me, and that's where I'm probably going to end up at some point in my life. But, anyway. So, it's just, this is all so fascinating and so interesting. To reading about New York and its history, particularly Broadway. So, probably the two I should focus on the most are History of Magic and then Broadway. Like I said, I need to get Blood of Elves done. I think December 20th is the date that the Witcher TV series comes out. And I want to get it done before the show, before it comes to Netflix. I think it's Netflix. Or it might be Hulu. Which now reminds me, I do need to check on Hulu and see if we have it. Because I think my mom said we have access to it. Fortunately, I can't. She's working today, so I can't ask her right now. But I gotta ask her. So, anyway. That is my reading for today. That's the reading that books I have been reading. I still got to get to all my other library books. I really should consider reading some of those YA books that I have. I have a middle grade and a YA book. The Keeper of the Lost City is the 4th book. I finally got back into that series and I'm reading it. I got it from the library. That's the good news. That's one of those few series that actually the whole series is at the library. Which, I mean, that's the only problem. Like, the other book is actually from, I don't know if it's a duology or a series. Bone Witch, that's YA. So I could technically start those first and get those through a lot faster. I mean, I think it's too late now. Well, maybe not, I don't know. But, I want to, the books that I've had the longest, I want to get to those first. That's why I'm reading the Charles Dickens short story collection and History of Magic first, even though those might take me a little longer. Would love to know what is going on with your reading today. Feel free to share in the comments below what you are currently reading right now. I would love to know. And if you like this video, be sure to give a thumbs up and click subscribe if you have not already and you like this video. And you like all the other videos I've made. And I hope you're enjoying your reading, and I will talk to y'all later. Alright, bye!